All right, today on the Keeping It Real Estate podcast, we have and just had an amazing guest, Sonia Macias. Chris, what'd you think of the interview?
Very well spoken, motivating to listen to, and I think it's huge for anybody who's looking to start or anybody who's actually been in some type of entrepreneurial position, even currently for a while, to listen to this episode and take the advice of what I love that was hit home was the emphasis on coaching and or mentorship. And we throw that around a lot on the show, but it's amazing how, what Sonia was highlighting is that she has personal coaches, then she has business coaches. She talked about the importance of other coaches for different people in different parts of their lives. And that hit home, that drove home for me because I realized how much of a difference in my investing and entrepreneurial career took off once I started getting coaches. And it was great to hear someone so successful as Sonia highlight that's a lot to do with coaches and surrounding yourself with people who know so much.
Yeah, no, that's we spent a lot of time on that, and the nice thing is that she has the credibility for that. This isn't, I'm going to go every coaching class and then, hey, I'm going to go flip my first home. She has her own construction company. She bought her first apartment building 20 years ago. She runs a successful meetup group. These are all like really awesome attributes. So there's a lot to unpack in this. That's a popular term, but the way that she dives into just your mindset of everything, how you're structuring your day, how you're structuring what you're looking at in projects and really breaking down your criteria, knowing your numbers, all these things and the fundamental things that'll help you be successful. So yeah, without further ado, let's get the next episode of Keeping It Real Estate podcast. Let's get it. All right. Welcome, Sonia Macias. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real Estate with Colin Schwartz and my host,
Chris Pomerleau.
All right, Chris, how you doing today?
Your host.
Your host. Our host. Together we are hosts. Together we are your host today.
I'm all right, man. I'm good. Glad to be here.
The hostess with Moses. So just for some time stamping, because this will probably come out in a few months, it is negative 30 degrees here in Omaha. So nice and balmy. So if this comes out in March and it's still cold and snowy, well, we're still having the same weather. But we have a fantastic guest here today, Sonia Macias, who is a full-time investor and runs a very successful meetup group called Investor Omaha. Sonia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for making me get out of the house in this lovely weather.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here. If you don't mind, if you want to pull the mic a little closer. Yeah, thank you. All right, so I've known you for, has it been 5 years now? I think it's been since like the beginning of my investing career, and I know you're doing some flipping houses and other things, but how about you give us a 30,000-foot view of a little bit of your background and where Sonia is right now?
Well, I've always been involved in real estate since I was probably 20, but 7-unit apartment complex from a nun that I joke about. She might be burning in hell for lying to me. Closers.
We're starting this off strong.
I didn't know what I was doing. No idea what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted cash flow. I didn't really know what cash flow was back then, I got to be honest, but there was always that idea that I wanted something else. I've always been an entrepreneur, even since I've been little. I've always had side gigs. None of them had been successful, but I tried.
Good deal. So, okay, so you started off with a 7-unit. It was 20 years ago. What, I know you said you wanted cash flow or passive income. What made you go and buy a 7-unit apartment complex from a nun?
So I was already working at a bank, and I learned really quickly how to leverage money. And I've always wanted big stuff. So I'm like, screw the one house. I want bigger cash flow. Well, as you guys know, there's some more responsibility that comes with that. And I didn't blink. I was looking at bigger apartment complexes. I mean, I walked through a few of them, and that's just the one that made sense. It still exists. It's on Vinton Street. I don't own it anymore. But a house with, whatever, $300 cash flow, it just didn't seem right for me at that point.
Nice. Do you remember what you paid for it?
This is a bad time because I just came back from vacation. No, I don't. I don't remember anything.
Okay, so you sold it though, Vinton Street. Yeah, I own some apartments there, and South Omaha, great location. Okay, so that was 20 years ago, and I'm guessing you didn't retire off of that. And I also know that you just became a full-time investor. Not that you weren't doing it 50 hours a week previously, but you got rid of the full-time job. So what's kind of brought you to this point? The deals you've done, kind of, yeah. What's your additional background?
I would say it was, I knew that I had to leave it, but it was just one of those things that I genuinely love. I've built a lot of friends in the recruiting industry, and it was time for me to call it quits. With the construction company, things are going extremely well. I mean, real estate, as we know, will always be around, and that's my baby. But the construction company is really driving it, and it just came to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't work 80 hours a week. I'm kidding, of course, but it just got to be too much.
It's a lot.
A lot.
So right now, is that the main thing you're doing? Is the construction company? Are you picking up houses and flipping them as well, or are you acting as third-party GC?
I am doing everything right now.
Okay.
The construction company, we have our own projects right now in 2023. Knock on wood, it's packed. The schedule's packed with projects, so that's great. I am still always looking for that rental, that flip. Flips are my babies. That's what I started with many years ago. That's what I ended up learning. And I just love the idea of being able to put an uninhabitable house back to the community. I don't think there should be empty lots and empty buildings sitting there. I think we need to get them back and provide a safe and good home for a family. So flips are always going to be there, rentals as well. My portfolio right now, I just have 10 homes. I've sold, upgraded. There's certain houses, certain areas that I wanted to get away from. So I still manage that because it's still small enough. Big projects moving forward is new construction apartments.
You manage your own rentals, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
There's nothing to manage when you go in there and you gut the place and you do things right. I'm not buying a cheap $50 toilet. I buy the good one. And I've never gotten a toilet call in the middle of the night. I mean, honestly, they're self-sufficient. I have tenants that have been there for 10, 15 years. It's really not that big of an
And
issue.
that's 10 single-family homes?
Yeah.
Okay, so no apartments.
It's coming. That's coming. I've looked at deals. Obviously, the numbers were extremely hard to make sense. I have a project that I put together, and it just takes time. And it's an 18-unit apartment. I'll build it from scratch. But, grant money, TIF, and all of that fun stuff, it just takes a long time. I think I've been, on paper, that's been on there for over a year.
Oh, wow. Do you have the land for that?
Yeah, I got the land. I got everything, just waiting for the numbers to make sense, which obviously right now it makes kind of hard, but there are a lot of options that are coming up in 2023. So I'm tapping into those.
Are you finding it most difficult? Because right now, I mean, we're about 3 points higher than we were, 6 months ago in interest rates or so. Some banks are much higher. There's a big spread between what even banks are offering now. Some may be as low as 6, then some of them are saying, man, 7.5, and we're offering a great rate. I mean, it really is kind of varying all over the board with, 8% being out there, very much readily available. So are you waiting for the rates to fluctuate, or maybe the costs of construction and labor, or what are some of the big levers that you're kind of waiting to pull?
My construction costs will be fixed, obviously.
Mhm.
Materials will vary a little bit. The land I own, so that's not a problem. The interest rate does make a huge difference, obviously, but there are programs that are rolling out next year, 2%, 25-year loan. Obviously, it's a bid process. You have to get approved for something like that through Front Porch Investments, excuse me. So that would make the deal pencil in.
What's Front Porch Investments?
You need to look it up.
Is it?
It's a nonprofit organization. They're into providing, obviously, housing back to the community. So if you have a project that pencils in certain number of things, they've had a couple of grants that they rolled out, but their biggest one is coming up. It's 2% fixed for 20 to 25 years. I mean, that's insane in this market, obviously. But I also think I mean, interest rates make a huge difference when you're trying to pencil a construction project in any. Here's the thing, though. I believe it's important to sit down with your banker. I meet with my banker frequently. We text, how are the interest rates? How is it coming along? What do you see? I mean, I'm consistently on track. I do it for my own stuff and I do it for my clients' projects in construction because obviously that can fluctuate. If they win, I win. So it's it just makes sense to build that relationship.
You have more than one banker, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I bank with like 4 banks.
Yeah.
But there's always that person.
When that's special in your heart.
That special person that, I mean, he takes the time. He will give me the call, give me the information that I need. I mean, I'm literally meeting with him at least once a month. Just coffee. Tell me, what do you see on the banking side? I want to be informed.
No, that makes sense because, especially on the construction side, because it's not even just the rate that we have now. Even if you can fix that interest rate on the construction side for now, when it balloons in 12, 18, 24, 30 months, however long the interest-only period is. Now, from what we're hearing, interest rates should not be going much higher than they are now and should start on their way back down. But once again, this is all talking heads. I don't know if I believe any of that. I mean,
We don't know.
because we
Even the
still haven't
bankers
surpassed
know.
we still haven't surpassed inflation, and technically that gets you to just a ground zero when interest rates are matching inflation, and we haven't even toyed with that level yet. So it's hard to say that that's actually going to come to fruition in 6-12 months that interest rates are going to start trickling back down. I don't know. So I really love that. That was one of the first things that I did. Created my PFS, and then I started meeting with all the bankers I could and set up regular meetings because they're the ones controlling the money and the debt. They're the ones controlling the terms. And guess what? If you make a better relationship with a banker, not only are you going to be more informed, typically your deal is going to be pushed to the top of the stack. And honestly, you're going to have more room to negotiate to get better rate, better terms. You're at least going to be heard in that. You're not going to be given what the cookie cutter term sheet that everybody else is given, because they know that you're proactive in this. They know that you care. They know that you're putting a lot of additional thought into this project, and it's also not a one-off instance for them. And although there's maybe some work on their side of having these meetings with you, et cetera, you're basically making their job a heck of a lot easier when they have to go to their presidents and vice presidents and discuss, hey, Sonia Macias is going to build this, construction project. Here's her resume, here's her background, this is her philosophy on it, and they can dictate that for you and be able to basically set the picture and, give off your story so that when you do go in for these projects, or say if you come into a point where you need a capital call, there's a big run on construction costs, you get halted on the project, you have a couple months of additional holding costs that you weren't expecting. Typically, banks are a lot more understanding when you have really solid communication with them. So I just love that.
I would say I confess to my banker on a regular basis. But here's the thing. I really want him to know where I'm at, where I'm going, and how can the banks, suit me. You guys know that all of the banks are different. Some of them like single family, some of them like apartments, some of them like construction projects, every single one of them. So I always talk about having the construction tool around you. You need to have the different pieces and pull the right one when you need it. But when you're consistently meeting with them, you're finding out what's going on, what do they see changing, and you also informing them where are you going, what are you doing, what are your concerns. I mean, the first thing I did when I come back was meet with my banker. Okay, what have I missed? Where are interest rates at? What are you looking at? I've been able to get some of my construction clients construction loans right now when everybody else turned them down because of that relationship.
Right.
Obviously, it wasn't just me. Their numbers also had to be in place, and we all know banks have different flavors for clients, so you need to understand who's making the decisions, how quickly can they pull them, are they having to go out of state to get a decision, is it within in-house, what is their capability? I mean, are they going to be able to lend you 10 million, or are they going to be able to lend you 40 million? It's those little things that come into play the longer you're going to be in the game. And I think that's important.
I think that they need to be seen as a partner. Banks are partners.
They're partners. Just as your lawyer, your CPA, and your accountant, I had a very good friend of mine, and he's my mentor. he's always said to me, Sonia, it's the banker, it's the lawyer, your CPA. I mean, those people are going to help you win, and they're going to help you when you need it the most. And I would say in the last probably 2 years, the strongest relationship that I have nurtured has been the banker.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Those are some of the key pieces. And, I love that you mentioned the CPA. I mean, our CPA is, willingly jumped on calls with other investors to help us to help explain, the tax ramifications, some of the advantages of investing in real estate, and they act as a true partner. And, we're there for them as well. We want their business to thrive, just like they want our business to thrive.
It's a win-win.
It's no longer transactional, and you have to get out of that aspect. I mean, it's same thing, if you're that person that goes in and yells at the banker because they didn't get you something or they messed up something, they're not going to want to do business with you. I mean, yeah, you have to be understanding, but there has to be some give and take, because there's going to be a point in this business where things aren't going to go as planned on your side. And it's going to happen multiple times. If you're doing it for long enough or you're doing it enough volume, there's multiple things that are going to occur. And you're going to need the assistance from those individuals of, delaying payments, increasing amount of, construction funds, et cetera, hurrying up and getting tax information done, new filings, helping with entity info. So yeah, no, that's great. I love it.
I think just like you said, every single one of them, it's a win-win situation for both sides, right? Your lawyer's protecting you, your CPA is running the numbers, sharing with you consistently, helping your clients, obviously, at the same time. And, I would say this, we think of the lawyer only when we need them. But in my business, what I've done for 22 years prior to this was building relationships. I came back and I got a call from a guy who's in Australia. I totally forgot that I found him a job out there. Call me, craziest thing. He's like, hey, I saw you have a construction company. What do you do? Long story short, he's an investor, real estate investor on the side, obviously. I know how much the guy makes because I got him the money, obviously the offer, the money. And he's saying, I am investing in Kansas City, so let me know if you come across a deal because I have cash. Well, of course he does. I know how much he makes, by the way. So, it's building those relationships. And I think people sometimes forget that when you have somebody reach out to you and you're like, hey, I want coffee or I want this, believe me, sometimes it's hard, but it's building those relationships in the future. If you're going to be in the game, you got to build them. Period.
That's all I did for like the first 2 or 3 years.
All the time. It was almost daily. I mean, there would probably be at least 5 to 7 of those a week.
Easily.
Coffee's
Easily. And it gets hard. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it gets hard, but I value that. If somebody reaches out to me, I value that. I'll listen to them. We may not do any business at that point, but we will. It's a matter of time. When things align, we will. So you got to keep that door open.
Right.
So you brought up, and this is kind of goes to the partnership and mutual benefits, but you brought up a mentor. Have you had a lot of mentorship, or what does that look like?
So in the last year and a half, I really stepped it up. I've had that friend own a very successful business. When I was in recruiting, made millions of dollars, and now he flips homes for fun. He doesn't need to, but he does it for fun. So he's an extremely savvy business person. If I have a question, I'm always reaching out to him. He lives in Jacksonville, Florida, but I'm also paying. I decided to go through Investor Strive Mentorship. I also have another personal coach. And here's my thing. Just like anybody else, at some point, we're like, well, we're not Tiger Woods, right? We don't need a mentor. We don't need a coach. But the fact of the matter is that we weren't born with all this knowledge, and neither were them, okay? The Lionel Messi's of the world winning a World Cup, I guarantee you, he's paid what he has to pay. We don't know it all. And I learned meeting an investor that I seeked out in Tulum about 2 years ago. He said to me, look, Sonia, if you want to be successful in business, you got to have a personal coach. You have to have a marriage coach. Okay, well, that's out for me. And you have to have a business coach. Why? Because all those 3 areas makes up your daily life, and you don't know it all. If you think you know everything personally in your marriage or in your business, I'm here to tell you somebody can always teach you something new.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. And I couldn't agree more. I just started getting coaching. So Chris was the first one to actually get me into any sort of, I guess, groups to kind of the pay to play type model. That was with Jake and Gino. So started joining those groups. And last year, I think I had two different coaches. One of them was somewhat of a live, somewhat of, kind of holistically did everything. There was an intention more on the life coaching, except he had a lot of business experience as well. So when I'm having a bad day, he's actually able to help with that. I hired a personal trainer. I had then a business coach. I then was part of a mastermind group that was all different levels of entrepreneurs, which all of them basically offered some mentorship as well. And then finally, another group that was basically a band of brothers, 50 men, all of them real estate investors, but, probably 40% of the conversations were about real estate. The rest of it was about life, how to optimize yourself, because really it's ourselves. I mean, once you get the blueprint of real estate, it's simple. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but it's fairly simple. At least it's its most fundamental aspects. You buy rentals that are of good value, meaning you have to look at 100 of them. So you have to look at 100. You write 10 offers, and you get one. That age-old saying, that one you put in a property management company or manage it yourself. You develop those systems. You collect the rent. You make sure the residents are happy. You take care of the building. You rinse and repeat. You refinance, and you do it over again. All sounds simple, except in the middle, there's life, there's kids, there's traffic, there's illness. There's all these different things that can occur where you get detoured, and you need some help to get realigned to either bounce ideas off of, or just kind of for that inspiration, or for those secondary ideas. So I think I invested close to 6 figures last year in mentorship, and I'm looking at a really high level individual this year, and it's a high ticket price, but when you can start looking at it past the money, I mean, first off, they should always pay for themselves. Like, you should be able to, if you apply yourself, it should be incredibly easy to get your money back with that.
That's what people don't understand.
They think it's a cost. They think it's a cost like buying a car,
yes,
or a television.
And the thing that they don't understand, I mean, my coach has connected me with other extremely successful entrepreneurs. Why? Because he's coaching the same people, right? And at first you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay this? And my comment to people is, you cannot afford not to have one. It'll come back in circle. I've gotten business out of my coaches. Not that's the reason why I did it. I think mentally, as you talked about it being holistic, it is so important. I think one of the biggest growth things that I've had in the last year is starting to learn how to take care of myself, because you run 100 miles per hour, you're taking care of everybody, and you forget to take care of yourself. And I'm sorry, sooner or later, you're going to burn out. And when we see these people, they're so successful. They have everything put together.
Must be nice.
We're all human.
Yeah.
We all have good days. We all have bad days. We all have, for the most part, kids, lives, parents, sickness. I mean, we have it all. Everybody has their challenges. Obviously, with everything on the internet, it makes it look easy, but I don't care what they said. Anybody who's achieved, success, they went through their grind, and they're still going through it. And I think that's important. It's called delayed gratification, right? You have to put in the work. But when you surround your people around these coaches, and they're consistently telling you, I've had my coach for a year and a half telling me I needed to take a trip by myself. And I'm like, there's no way. I can't disconnect my whole world. I did. And guess what? My perspective coming back has been nothing but amazing. I mean, I'm realigning everything. I would have not done that if my coach had not continued to push that button.
You're optimizing. You've optimized yourself. I can't remember, I heard this somewhere, but basically with anything in life, people look at, as you were saying, people look at people with a lot of money. Oh, it must be nice. That's the lagging indicator. The leading indicator is how many dollars I am spending on a coach, a mentor, and those hours that I'm putting into it. There is zero results guaranteed at that point. But that's the leading indicator of the work that I am putting in. Just like going to the gym. You go to the gym first 3 months and you've never worked out before. You may have a little difference. You may not. It's going to be small, especially those first couple weeks. All of a sudden you get to the lagging indicator and somebody sees you 3 years after working out and you scarf down a full pizza and a 12-pack. Like, must be nice to do that. well, yeah, you don't know the, 3,000 hours I put in the gym to have the ability to have this one-off day.
And I think the gym is so it's such a good example, okay? When you compare, for example, some of those that go to the gym and in business, right? We talked about you can go to the gym every day, for example, and see no difference, right? You need the right eating, you need a trainer, you need the vitamins, you need all of this. In a business, as a human being, we need the same thing. Okay, in a business, we don't know it all. We're consistently learning and consistently putting ourselves out there. So reaching out to coach, reaching out, obviously, do I need a consultant for the business? Because we will get to a point where we're going to plateau, very much the same at a gym. You're going to reach a point where you see no more difference and you're like, okay, I've gotten too comfortable. It's time to step it up. And I think in a business it's the same way. I mean, you guys have grown so much. Think of where you were at, where you're at right now. Had it not been for all the work behind the scene that people don't see, it would be really hard to get where you want to get.
I think it's what's different is that when people look at it, they make a decision on coaching. They think, shall I do it or shall I not? And actually, I think the answer is you're always going to have a source of education. You're always going to have a mentor. It could come by way of a 6-figure coach, or it could come by way of you dedicating 18 hours a day to listen to every single podcast and YouTube could possibly imagine. And if you want to get there quicker, you go to the person who's done it and you pay that 6 figures. And it took me 4 years to learn that because I literally think I listened to every podcast about real estate, every episode, every YouTube.
Yeah.
And 4 years in, I was further along than others that I knew. But what if I just would have head up that business coach or that life coach 4 years ago? Like, where the heck would I be now? And I think the key is making an individual realize that it's not, shall I get a coach or not? It's what source do you want for your education? And do you want to get there quicker or do you want it to be a self-taught thing? And that self-taught, nobody in the world is self-taught. Nobody.
Self-taught is extremely difficult. I've read the books. I've listened to the podcast. I'm exactly like you. I've made way more progress from the moment I hire a coach. And let me tell you, nobody wants to hear you're doing this wrong or you're doing this. But when they start telling you and
you need to.
noticing, you're like, oh my God. There were times where I would say, I didn't even know that by myself. I had not even noticed. I mean, that's the thing. We're consistently learning.
Yep.
We're consistently learning. And the more we learn about ourselves and the more we are applying that to our business, the more successful it's going to be. The coaches are surrounded by some of the best people anyways. And I've been introduced. I've had the opportunity to sit down with some of these people. And it just gives you a totally different perspective. And by the way, my personal coach is not even in real estate. I would say this and he would laugh. I purposely chose a male coach and I wanted somebody who was not in real estate because that would push me different. And he's been amazing.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, my personal coach too, I'm teaching him some things about real estate. He's great at business, but also too that you're going to receive, whether you want to call it coaching or something from anywhere, whether it says 30-second TikTok videos of non-significant, non-important information. You're filling your head with something throughout the day. What do you want to fill it with? And what are you going to make the most progress out of? And what's going to get you to where you want to be? And I think oftentimes, people are taking on like, well, I just learned this from this video. Now I'm ready to go take on the world. And why is it not working? Well, there's just a lot more substance to it than you can get from that. So
nobody wants to be held accountable.
It's painful.
It is very painful.
Tax your ego.
But it works.
Yeah.
I mean, there are days where I want to tell my coach, F off, you're pushing the wrong button, but it makes sense what he's doing. And thanks to that, it makes you grow. It makes you realize something about yourself. You're applying something into your business. I mean, 2023, I highly recommend get a coach. There's different prices. There's different people. And the question is, how do I find the right one? Okay, you network, you ask, you find out. I have a real estate coach and I have a personal coach. They're different, but it aligns. Everything aligns anyway.
Yeah, make sure, for anybody that's listening, there are definitely gurus out there that'll take your money and, walk off with it, that have written the ebook, they have the website, they have the podcast, they have the YouTube channel. but my gosh, they don't own a single rental, or maybe they did and their parents bought it for them, and now they're these ultimate landlords and they inherited some cash, or they got really good at network marketing or something. So there are things to certainly be cautious for. That's why you have to talk to them. You do have to vet those individuals because they have popped up recently, and it's unfortunate. But for the most part, there are many, many, many good individuals out there that, even though they charge a high price, they don't need the money. The reason they're doing it is because they're constantly asked these questions. So they want to work with high-level individuals and propel them, and also make sure they're committed, which is the price tag for it, because they're valuing their time. They're like, okay, my time's worth $5,000 an hour, so because that's what I could be making outside of this. So
Absolutely.
I'm sacrificing something for you, so that hopefully you can start making $5,000 an hour, and it's easy to replicate that. I do want to shift a little bit of gears, but it's very similar. I want to talk about the meetup group, because I was talking with Irvin upstairs about this, Investor Omaha, and he was like, wow, it's one of the best groups out there. Just with the amount of effort, the guest speakers that you get in there. So what inspired you to create that? And just tell me a little bit about the group and what you like about the group.
When I was listening to all the podcasts, I was listening to Bigger Pocket, and Andressa Gazzelli, who is the CEO of Investor, was being interviewed, and she talked about how to manage contractors. At that point, I had just lost 25 grand from a contractor, so I was like, she's from a different country, she's got a heavy accent, and she's managing contractors. What am I doing wrong? So in the world of recruiting, I learned how to skip trace people. I'll find anybody anywhere. And I obviously wasn't that hard. I found their group and I reached out to them and I said, hey, how can I get involved? I found out that it was more towards women. And I've been asked this question, why women? Why not men? Here's the thing. We understand how we think. Women are normally uncomfortable around a lot of men. I've grew up around men. I'm not afraid to be the only woman in the room. That's how it's always been for me, but that is not the normal for a lot of people. So as you know, your meetup, also the other one, they're more heavily male attended, and that makes some women not come out because it makes them uncomfortable, okay? We understand that. I just really wanted to create a safe place that anybody can come. They can ask any questions. There are no stupid questions. My idea is education. I feel like the financial education is lacking out there. What inspired me was a divorce. You know, you go after a divorce, your life drastically changes, right? And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, here's my life now. I have 2 kids. How am I going to make this work? And you just do things, you know. I don't remember exactly the quote, but they're like, a woman is like a hot tea bag, and you put her in hot water. I can't think. I came back from vacation. I apologize.
I'm gonna try to explain this to my wife later, so please let's not butcher it, so I don't come up offensive.
Put a tea bag in hot water, and you get results. And I think us females, overall, that's how we react. You either crash or you bounce back. I chose to bounce back, right? I mean, recently divorced. Lost 25 grand from a contractor. I mean, I can sit here and I can laugh about it now, right?
Yeah.
I can laugh about it now, but that's just who I am. I've always been very, very determined. I don't mean it in a cocky way, but I get what I want because I'm always willing to put the work. And I wanted to facilitate and educate more overall women, but obviously, Irvin, you're always welcome, by the way. Denless is always there. Anybody can come at this point. But I wanted to create just an atmosphere that if they're more comfortable in an atmosphere where there's more females versus males, hey, you can come. The whole thing, much to what you guys have done, is just educate. It's really educate. I tell people, look, you don't have to do 1,000 apartments if you don't want to. You buy 1 or 2 houses right a year, okay? And you do it for the next 10 years and do the math. You will be set. We are not having retirement. Government retirement is not going to exist. So
Not going to happen.
Start doing your retirement. And I think all of those things combined, I mean, here's the thing. If somebody asks me what motivates you, my father and I are extremely close. In Mexico, we had what I would call an okay life, a good life. Dad had a grocery store. We had a home. We had a car. We took 4 beach vacations a year. Life was good. But Dad saw the unicorn in me, and he said, I want her to be more than just getting married and having umpteen kids. I want her to do what she wants. So my motivation has always been my father, is I just want to show him that the reason why he sacrificed it all, it was worth it.
I'm sure he's proud.
Yes, he's amazing. He's my cheerleader. You know, when you talk about having those hard days, and you talk about, he is who I go home to. And how's your day? How's this? How's that? Frida, my oldest, she knows everything. I keep a very transparent, obviously relationship with her, business, personal, everything. Last night she's asking me, Mom, I need to find out what kind of will and trust you have in place. And I'm just, what?
And what's your life insurance, Mom?
No, literally, she's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, can I just ask why? She's like, I just need to know, Mom, in case something ever happened. That's me. I'm always thinking in the future, and obviously she does the same.
That's great.
That's good that she's doing that.
I certainly wasn't thinking about wills and trusts when I was in high school.
No, not at all.
Again, she takes after me. I walked into my insurance agent at the age of 19, and I said, I need a life policy. And he set me down and said, are you going to commit suicide? And I'm like, no, isn't this the thing to do? He's like, not when you're this age. Nobody thinks about that. But I've always been I'm always thinking about the future, right? I'm always thinking, how can this get done? How can this get improved? And that's no different.
Awesome. Before we will have one more section, but I do want to talk about. I kind of want to talk about this 18-unit apartment, or maybe one of your recent deals. What are you doing when you look at a project? So one of the houses that you own, what is your criteria for this? What's your criteria, or for a flip? Do you mind maybe going through that? How you look at a project?
Absolutely. First of all, my criteria is that I'm not going to take a flip if I can't make minimum 50 grand, period.
How much?
50.
50. Okay.
Okay. Obviously, those numbers are different right now. So I'm assessing, but from the get-go, how much am I going to commit my time? Because it is time, it is whatever. If I can't make that kind of profit, I'm walking away from it. Now, when I say I'm walking away from it, then does that make sense for a rental, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm consistently looking. I love to do at least 5 flips a year if possible, okay? And I'm consistently wanting to add to my portfolio, but I'm being very picky. It's the location. It's extremely important. I'm consistently getting calls, hey, I'm looking to rent. Obviously, South Omaha is my hottest area. I also own in Bellevue. Papillion, would I expand out of that? Yes, but that is where my network is, okay? So if I'm going to look at a property, I immediately look at what is the cost to rehab it. And that is my cost, my rehab, because everybody else's is different, right? Am I looking at a house? What's the price? What's the rehab cost? If I do sell it, obviously as a flip, I need to consider realtor fee. No, I'm not a realtor yet. I know what my construction cost is going to be immediately, and I know what the timeline is. We've been able to stream down our timeline on our flips. I mean, we can cram them down in 4 to 6 weeks. So that's been very efficient. Minimum, I don't care to make money and get it. I care about leaving equity. If I'm going to buy a rental, I want to leave as much equity as possible. Even when they were giving you money back because the house appraised for more. No, I want to leave it. I want to make sure it's there.
Why?
Because I'm building long-term. It's long-term. My rentals.
Let's use some numbers here. So like if you could do a refi, you refinance the property and they'll do 80% of the value. Are you saying, no, I'd rather do 60% of the value, or?
I will say I leave as much as I need to on there unless I already have another property lined up. Why? Because my goal is I'm not selling. Those are going to stay there, and I know I have equity when I need it. Now, I know the market fluctuates, right, for example. But again, it also looks good when you go to the banker and you're not asking to take extra money out.
You can get better rates sometimes.
You certainly get better rates.
You get better rates. You get better terms. And I am to build that relationship with that banker, because then all of a sudden they're looking at you like you're not desperate for money. You're making certain moves and you're making them right. It makes your portfolio look better. Your pro forma when you're going to a bank, it looks better anyways. So my rentals, they're strictly just retirement. I mean, that's just, we're gonna keep going. I'll build it. I want more, but that's just gonna stay there. As far as numbers, I'll give you kind of a quick rundown if my numbers are right. The last, I believe, flip I did, or prior to the last, I think I bought it for 182. I ended up putting about 35 grand, and it sold for 295.
Ooh, that's nice.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the last nice one I had.
Yeah. So how are you finding these projects? I have two questions. How are you finding the projects, and how are you sourcing the capital for the down payment?
I buy them cash.
You buy them cash?
I
Okay.
buy them cash, and then if I keep them for rentals, I refinance and just keep on going.
Okay.
How am I
Keep
finding
recycling.
them? Most of them, to tell you the truth, come from the MLS.
Okay. Good deal.
I have a good friend who's a realtor. She knows exactly what I want. She knows exactly what I'm looking for. She knows my numbers. Again, it's that relationship.
And utilize her to buy and sell.
Yes. It's that relationship.
And she's gonna fight for you. She can put your name at the top of the list. And you know, it's funny you said that it's on the MLS. I tell people all the time. I was like, if I give me an entire day, and I know I could find $50,000 to $100,000 if you just let me just go on the MLS. I know it's there. Like, it's impossible not to be there now. Maybe it's not a flip. Maybe it's not a hold. There's a rental and a refi. Maybe it's something I'm not even thinking of right now. But there is always a possibility to make something with something that is out there. Now, there are certainly bad deals that don't make sense. But when I hear that there isn't deals, I ask the question: have you looked at every single property and analyzed them in these multiple different ways? Have you looked if you're going to flip it, you're going to hold it for a rental, maybe make it a short-term rental? Can you wholesale it? Are there any? I know wholesaling is illegal in Nebraska. Call it whatever you want. Get a fee for doing something. But are there any of these types of items that you can do? Can you package it together? I always feel there's some sort of possibility. Can you do some seller creative financing and get into the project for free? Can you get in for no dollar? Like, there's just all these different ways to figure it out. Maybe you don't have the capital for it, so you find a partner that does have the money, but they don't have the time. There's always a way to do it if you're going to put in the time and effort.
Do you partner with people?
I partnered last year on 2 flips, but honestly, I do most of it on my own. Not because I'm opposed to it. It has to make sense. I'm more than happy to partner. I look at deals all the time. I do have people that come to me and they're consistently giving me off-market deals. The thing is, they don't understand my criteria.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like my real estate agent does. And I believe there's deals to be had out there, you know, whether it's on the MLS or private. You just got to know your numbers. That's the number one thing. And you got to know your market. Okay, that's the other thing. Understand who is your client. Who are you working? I would say I'm a little lucky because I have a construction company and my construction guys need to rent. So
It's the gift that keeps giving.
I'm fortunate, right? And I provide a good home and they rather keep it there. So I feel like that area, I've been very lucky. But again, I've been building this, okay? It's not like one day I woke up and, everything worked out. No, it's been a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned is know your area and know the location. So I was reading an interesting post the other day from a friend of mine, David Doge, and he flips, 40, 50 houses a year or so. And he was asked the question, why don't you buy in war zones? I think he was asked that just in that manner because he was looking for properties that, would be considered B locations, just, better locations. And he went through a laundry list of 10 things. But, I mean, one, just, the turnover rate, the turnover cost, likely these units are there is more wear and tear on them. Appreciation, you're never going to see the appreciation. The cash flow, although it sounds great and looks great on paper, once again, with all these turn costs and all these issues and possible additional evictions, that workforce, just like the upper end workforce, the lower end workforce also struggles during some certain recessionary times. So that's when people can't pay rent. And you just went through this laundry list of things. So where at the beginning, lots of people were like, well, why don't you get this? This is 25% cash on cash return. I was like, just hold up here. I know that's a $30,000 house, but there's still a $3,500 furnace in that. Okay, so I know you're doing these numbers and you're thinking you're going to make this, but that furnace now just cost you 2.5 years of cash flow because your investment was at such a low basis. You thought this return was going to be up here, but it's just not. That's not what's going to happen. So I just love that you broke down those criteria and that it's taken you a while to put together, but that you're sticking to those and seeing the value of a better asset.
It's the numbers. I think anybody who's been successful, if you didn't see the numbers and you're looking more than just what am I making now? The great example, okay, the furnace, goes out. Like you said, the cash flow goes out, right? You got to think, again, you got to think about the future. How does this look? And how does this either cost me or provide me? And is this something I can maintain? No different than people that were flipping exclusively in the last 2 years. I'm hearing rumors, I'm not going to flip anymore. That's not my thinking, but I learned through the business, you don't have all your eggs in one basket. If you keep them all in one area goes bad, then you are likely to hurt a lot more. But when you are diversified, then if something is not working out, the other ones will always support the rest of it, and it flows much smoother. So, for example, I still want to do flips. Let's say I don't do them. That's not going to kill me. That doesn't affect me other than I'm not going to make that extra income. My rentals are still there. My construction company is still there. The rest of it is still there. So I think when you look at your portfolio, everybody's different. Some people love flips, some people love rentals, some people love new construction. Finding out what is it that calls you and do the numbers make sense? The numbers have to make sense.
No, I love that. Sonia, this has been great. We have a couple final questions with CNC's final three. Dun, dun, dun. All right, I'll start off first. This is something I think is really important. I ask everybody. These questions do change, but this one I like to ask almost every time. Daily habits, and it doesn't have to be every day, but let's call it 300 days a year. What's something you got to do?
A daily habit, I go to the gym early, first thing in the morning. It sets my mind right. I think about, I process my day. It makes me feel better. I get rid of the stress, and that's like setting me up for the rest of the day. And a prayer every morning.
That's awesome.
It is. That's a common answer. But
Yes.
it's funny how often you hear people give that answer. The successful people starting their day off with a good workout, getting their mind right, doing something that's hard.
Doing something that is hard is so important because the hard things will come throughout the day. But if you've already self-inflicted pain, you're already mentally ready for a next level of pain.
And I think that's so important you mentioned is you put a hard workout, and there's days where you don't want to get up like today. Oh my God, like I don't really. But here's the thing, you do that and everything that's going to go wrong for the rest of the day, you're like, okay, well, it's not so bad after.
It could have been worse if you didn't work out. Let's put it that way. There is almost never a day I regret it. I just remember at my old job, I would work out in the morning and I would go, and we always had this 8 a.m. call, and it was just, it was so hard. It was all the negative things that happened overnight. Literally, that's all it was. It was a list of complaints.
What a great way to start
with one person pointing fingers of why is this broke? Why isn't this fixed? This. And the mood of the room was just like, you could feel it, and there's just these stale donuts in the middle of the table. And I'd walk in jovial, still sweating, and just, drinking a protein shake, laughing, making jokes. And it's just, I stood out. I was that guy. So whatever. But you know what? It just didn't bother me. I was like, it's broke. That means there's an opportunity to fix it. Thanks for my job. Now I got a job. It wasn't broke. Then what am I doing here?
Right.
So, and I think it's just flipping that, and it allows you to like flip those decisions. Just like, I don't know. So Chris.
Oh, yeah. So next question here then. If you were starting from scratch, 20 years ago was a 9-unit or 7-unit, sorry. You were starting from scratch right now. What's the first thing you would do to put yourself in the best position to succeed?
I would surround myself with the people that know more than I do.
Amen.
Yep.
Your lawyer, your CPA, your accountant, that banking business relationship, that mentor. I think one of the things that we think sometimes is that we have to reinvent the wheel. And I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel as much. You got to figure out what calls you, right? And because at that point, we don't know any better, surround yourself with the subject matter experts. Eventually, it'll come to you. What is it that calls you? What is it that you want to do? And by the way, those sources, they have ton of information for you. I mean, your CPA is going to educate you. What are the ways for you to save money? How do you do a tax deduction? How do you do this? Sit down with your banker and just ask him how things are going in real estate. And you can just sit there and listen, and he's going to inform you of what is actually happening and nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
It's that little information. The more you surround yourself with those people, the more you're more likely to make the right decision.
And the banker might send you a deal. I know I've had that before. Just like,
Yeah.
hey, go look at this, and ended up flipping it. And it's like, oh, there was 20 grand right there. Thanks. I'm glad I took you to lunch.
Absolutely.
We've received investors from CPAs,
Yeah,
attorneys,
it's-
deals.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's a win-win situation for sure.
Okay. Last question. I've got a couple that I'm considering, but I'm going to go with this one. Think back when you were a kid, or maybe, in your high school daydreaming days, or whenever, maybe it was just recently at the World Cup. We've all got goals, but there's this thing called a BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. It's almost something that becomes impossible. It's like, how do I provide water to an entire continent, or, that doesn't have it? Or how do I ship people to Mars? How do I change, I'm huge on education. How do we reform education in such a way, et cetera? What would be your big, hairy, audacious goal?
My big, I don't, I'm afraid to say it publicly
that's
because
perfect.
that's only Free that knows this,
Ooh.
okay? I said to her, look, it's going to get worse before it gets any better. But I'm going to tell you this. I will become somebody who's going to make a difference, okay? I am going to show young girls that you can do anything in life, and that being a minority is actually to your favor, okay? I am working in a construction world. I'm for the most part, only Mexican girl sitting in a room most of the time with men. I'm not the only one. There are a lot of other females, but it is important to show my culture that you can do anything you want. You just got to put your mind to it. And I said to Frida, I will be on the Forbes front magazine one of these days, and I'm going to give myself 10 years. And it's not about the money. I don't care about the money. I care about motivating, educating, and facilitating to people that they can be who they want. This is America. We came here for a dream, and that dream still exists. You can make it as good as you want, and there are no limits. I know everybody's situation is different. There are no limits. You just have to have the willingness to do it.
Man, that was beautiful. Mic drop.
Yeah, I think it's nice to know we had someone on the Forbes magazine.
I know. This is great. This is
Forbes magazine, I'm calling you.
yeah, down in the basement on 25th and Dodge. This is awesome at our studio. Sonia, this is fantastic, and that was honestly, it was almost beautiful. The way to end it. So once again, thank you very much for being
Thank you
here.
guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you guys do because you motivate and inspire us as well.
Appreciate you saying that. How can people get a hold of you?
I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. My cell phone is only one. Everybody knows it. I'm always happy to connect with people. And obviously, if there's anything that I can provide, I'm happy to do it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yep.